Welcome to Revive the Table, where we talk about reviving real food, restoring the soil, and rebuilding local communities. I'm your host, Shelby Lancaster, and today we get to talk to Mollie Engelhart. Mollie is an ex vegan and she turned into a cattle rancher. She's also a wonderful chef. She has a regenerative ranch down in Bandera, Texas. And her story does not start there, though. Her story starts long back in California, and she's going to share that with us while also sharing how she thinks we can transform and revive the table. Okay. So, Molly, do you want to share about your journey and what woke you up to the corruption and what put you on the path of leaving veganism and starting your regenerative ranch in Bandera, Texas?
That's a big question with a big answer. It wasn't like one thing. I always say that the Lord whispers and then he screams, and so there was many whispers, and I've always been good at listening and following the Lord. And um, my restaurants, when I started them, I believed in veganism 100%. I was very dedicated to that, and I thought that that was important, and I always only used whole foods. I don't mean the store, but foods in their whole form as God created them. I was never big on the fake meats and the fake when we added pizza, we did add like a fake cheese, but mostly I never used any of those kind of foods in my restaurant. I always was big on whole foods, and I always when had a garden at whatever house I lived in. I grew up on a farm, so I did have a deep rooted idea in whole foods, but my mom was a vegan, vegetarian, and I was just raised in that conversation. And it made sense when I started to open a restaurant to do that. And somewhere around 2013, listened. My brother came home totally inspired from a conference, and I listened to some TED Talks, specifically Graham Sate, and then which led me to other ones. And I realized there was solutions out there. And if I was totally honest about who I was as a environmentalist, um, I kind of thought that we were just a plague on the planet, and I was bringing my canvas bags to the grocery store, but I wasn't thinking that I was really making a difference, if that makes sense. Like, it was more virtue signaling, if I'm totally honest. Like, I didn't think that we were going to be able to save humanity with that. And what I understood about regenerative agriculture and soil and cycling carbon, and essentially God's design is perfect, and that we have learned it through indoctrination that basically the building blocks of all of life are dangerous and something that we should be afraid of. And I believed that. And then it all of a sudden made sense to me, like, well, why would we be afraid of something that is the building blocks of all of life, that is meant to be cycling? And so I just dove right into that, and I didn't move away from veganism right away. I just was like, got obsessed with soil and wanted to regenerate soil. Had my whole little garden at my country club estate, like gated community, and I were fighting me all the time because you have fruit trees in your front yard and it's against the blah blah blah, and your chickens are too loud and you're getting a fine. And so I was always like in trouble. And then I tried to get a farm, and it took me a long time to save up for a farm. And then farming really broke my mind open. In 2018, I finally got a farm, and I was very degraded. It had been an orange orchard, and it had this is my farm in California, not in Texas. We don't grow oranges in Central Texas. But so in that, I realized there's no vegan food. So I'm calling to get fertilizer, and I'm like, hey, what's your fertilizer made out of? Oh, it's 100% chicken poop. Oh, where are you getting this chicken poop? Oh, we're getting it from a Tyson factory farming operation. Okay. And then I'm calling another, oh, it's 100% blood meal from bovine. And I'm like, oh, where are you getting it from? Oh, we're getting it from a slaughter facility. So I realized that all organic fertilizer essentially was coming out of the system that I was against, the factory farming system. And I still am against the factory farming system. And people will say, oh, well, Molly, you don't want to feed the world. You want everybody to starve. No, that's definitely not what I want. And so I started to realize there's no food without death, that there's death on every plate, whether it's a T-bone or broccoli. The death is either over there or over here. And that started to resonate true through all of the environmental movement. Like, you can drive a Tesla, and you're driving your Tesla and you're like, I'm zero emissions. Well, no, the emissions are over there at the coal plant that's burning coal to digging coal and then electricity is being burning coal, or it's the mineral mining by children in sub-Sahara Africa. Like whatever it is, there's a cost and we've outsourced the suffering to someone else so that we can feel better. And so I realized that veganism was the same, that we were having this moral high ground. I felt we were saving the planet, we were saving humanity, we were more morally superior because we didn't have death in our diet. And then we plant 1,000 avocado trees and the ground squirrels are killing them. And then my husband is killing ground squirrels. And I'm like, oh my god, avocado toast has thousands of dead ground squirrels, and then, we're growing other things, and then things need and then there's rabbits, and then my husband is shooting rabbits because 'cause they're eating the lettuce, and I'm like, "Oh my goodness, there's no way." So it's either on the homesteader where we're fighting it with dogs and we're doing shooting or traps or whatever, or it's on the massive where we're just, like, spraying poison and killing an entire field of everything. And then I realized that there was a hierarchy, that we believed, like, a cow is more important than, say, a snake or a ground squirrel or a fox or rabbits that are getting chopped up in the combine harvester. And I just started to think this does not make sense. And then I started, and early in me and my husband's relationship, my husband and I got married under faithful circumstances, I guess, fateful and faithful.
I loved your story in your book. That I love that. Like, that was I was like, "This is so honest." That's what I love about you. You're so honest about your whole journey. But yeah.
We watched a lot of nature shows because this is before, like, you could just scroll on your own phone and have your own programming that's, like, directly to you, and your husband can be totally watching totally different things and laying in the bed and not talking. So this was we would put on, um nature shows because it didn't matter what language they were in. He could put them on Spanish or I could put them on English, and essentially you can tell what's going on. So I'm watching all these nature shows and it's like, where in nature does death not exist? And I just came to this conclusion that every idea around veganism was broken,
Mhm.
except for I knew personally people that had healed themselves from eating just vegan food, raw vegan, or just juice cleansing or so, these things. So, but then I started to hear about people that were having deficiencies and all of this. And I started to realize it's probably the whole food thing, that if I also know people that on a carnivore diet have healed cancer and on a vegan diet have healed cancer. So it's probably not so much what we're eating, but that we're eating it in the whole form. And then you can go back to Weston A. Price, and there's indigenous people eating mostly tubers, some kind of yams or potatoes, and they are healthy, and just eating whale blubber, and they are healthy, and just eating blood and milk, and they are healthy. And so it's when you're eating the thing in the whole form as God created it, metabolic function happens. And when we're eating isolated pea protein or isolated whey protein, like when we're isolating these parts out, then there's probably metabolic dysfunction. And so through all of that, I gave up. I mean, I don't know, I didn't give up. That sounds like I was like some I was forced. I was
Yeah.
forced to I was gonna sell my restaurants and start over and do something different. I had worked 15 years. They were very successful, and I felt like it didn't make sense to change the concept that was super successful and super profitable, and we were selling them for 25 to 31 million, but we were in the end of this period of, like, vetting all the da, 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 and so I looked like I was gonna get $31 million, and then COVID happened. California shut down restaurants for 2.5 years, and I still believed we would get back to normal and I'd be able to sell the restaurant. So I just tried to pivot through COVID, and I'm bringing farm veggies to, we're putting up a little grocery store in the restaurants. We're selling toilet paper on Uber Eats because people can't get toilet paper. Like, I'm just trying to pivot however I can. And at I would say the first 2 weeks of COVID, I was a little scared, but not even 2 weeks. But yeah, because I didn't know what was going on, and I'd never been through something where they shut down everything and they just tell you you can't let people inside your business. And I had a 3-month-old baby Soul. He's gonna turn 6 coming up here, in a couple weeks, and I had this 3-month-old baby strapped to me, and I'm going to the restaurant every day, and I'm loading up my husband, my assistant, me, and we're getting in the van, we're bringing in produce from the farm to try to do this little farm stand to pivot to get because grocery stores don't have any fresh produce. And I'm coming home and I'm entering through the laundry room and I'm stripping all my clothes off. And then I'm going in and I realize that one day I get out of the van and my son runs up to me and I'm like, no, 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 let me. And I just heard a voice clear as day. It said, "You're not going to be afraid. Do not be afraid." And I heard it, like, so clear, and I thought of, like, what is the phrase said the most in the Bible 365 times is basically, "Fear not, do not be afraid." And so I just said, "Okay, I'm not gonna be afraid. I will not be afraid." And so I hugged my son, and I said, "From this moment forward, we are not giving any power to this virus. Like, we are not gonna do that." So I was operating like this would pass, and we would just and I said, "Well, okay, we lost this deal, $31 million. If I had more restaurants in more states, I'll be able to sell it for so much more money when the world goes back to normal." Little did I know that was not gonna happen. So I bought this ranch in Texas thinking if I had known what I had known, I wouldn't have probably done it. But that's the beauty of not knowing and God has a plan bigger than you. And so I bought this place thinking I could then have restaurants in San Antonio and in Austin, and this would be the farm to table thing. And we were even in the conversation of maybe opening another brand that my husband was more the face of, and it was going to be Mexican food, regenerative Mexican food, farm to table, Mexican, local. We were like, we did the menu. It was going to have Texas grapefruit margaritas and all these different things like Texas farm to table, and it was going to be supplied by the same farm. And then eventually we could sell the vegan restaurants, and me and my husband would have these restaurants. That was like the thought. And so I bought this place, and then life never went back to normal. Not only did they steal the retirement by making these rules, they destroyed my income. And so then I had to sell my place in California or I had to sell this place. And I took the leap of faith thinking that there would be more like minded people in Texas and that there was more possibility. And my husband really wanted cattle. We couldn't run cattle on the land we had in California, and we couldn't afford land in California big enough to run cattle. And so that I don't know if that answers your question, but that is kind
Yeah.
of a synopsis of how one goes from vegan chef to Texas cattle rancher, and it is it's definitely a road less traveled.
I think I mean, it's beautiful in its own way because it really shows that God was really trying to speak to you and wake you up. And I think honestly, like there's so many people on different paths. Like for my family personally, like we weren't vegan, we didn't have restaurants, obviously, but like we've been just jolted awake by the corruption and like we have to build different. Like there's no option, even though it's really hard because a big aspect in our modern world is the financial aspect of it all. Like my Preston and I, we always talk about like if we could right now, we would get rid of everything we have and just live off the land. But there's so many financial barriers that you can't. Like there's so much. But the beauty is there's so many people waking up. And I think that's where the conversation has to be that if there's this many people waking up, we have to start really building outside of the system. And it takes, and I don't know all the answers, like how we're going to do it. And that's what I hope this podcast will do because I wanted you to be the first guest because obviously you have a remarkable story and you're doing it, even though it's hard, but you're doing it. And I want to inspire other people to start doing it.
And
So,
it's not gonna
mhm,
be overnight. So and
no,
you told your story many times, and I've had the privilege of hearing you on podcast and in person and on Instagram. But I remember thinking, wouldn't it be nice if I only fed my kids sourdough bread that was baked at home, like, it and that seemed impossible at the time, or I remember thinking, "Wouldn't it be nice if we only ate out twice a week?" Like, these are things I used to think, and now we never eat out. I mean, maybe once a week, not even once a week, a couple times a month, we go to Costco to get things that we can't grow, and that have the more organic options where we are here in Texas, and so sometimes we'll go get Thai food or something on the way home with the kids, but like mostly 90 whatever percent of the meals are home cooked at home meals. And so that is a very different life, but it didn't happen. It happened incrementally over 8 years or whatever that we just kept making choices. And the truth is, if I had just tried to jolt us into this like this quick, my husband would have revolted. It had to be it
Yeah.
had to be incremental. It has to be. And people get confronted because you start to look at, oh my God, every product that I'm putting, my shampoo, my conditioner, the floor, what we're cleaning the floor with, the air freshener, my car, my clothes, the microplastics. It's just like it starts to be
It's
crazy.
overwhelming. Yeah.
And so we just have to take incremental steps. And I don't know the answer because the money slave system has its claws in all of us.
Yep.
And we all have mortgages and car payments and whatever the things are, or most of us. I know a few people that don't, but most of us have
Yeah.
that. And because of that, we try to make money all the time. And like I remember one time last year, I was super broke. I'm crying. I don't know what to do. I'm not seeing a path forward. It's not working out. And I had all these persimmons going bad. And I was like, I'm just going to go to the restaurant and make the restaurant wasn't open. I was like, I'm just gonna go make persimmons barbecue sauce or hot sauce. I can't remember. I make both, but and I'm there and I'm just canning and cases after cases of barbecue sauce. And I'm thinking, like, how dumb are you that this is what you're doing? Like, you need to figure out a solution. You got to figure out your life. You got to figure out how to pay these bills. A- And it's crazy because 100 years ago, there wouldn't have been anything more important than making this food that was grown with lots of energy, love, and integrity into something shelf stable that we can nourish ourselves with through the winter. Like there wouldn't have been a single thing more important than that. And we live in a world where that is like trite and like not even important and like a hobby to do in your free time. And so I think, and Joel Salatin talks about this a lot, is like the enslaved food system. We have to just get into like black
I agree.
market
Yeah.
food. I think it has to be. And I have the privilege of having the restaurant here on the ranch. And so yesterday I made, 24 jars of fig jam and 30 jars of blackberry jam. Like I was just freezing them as they were not perfect enough to sell. And I don't think people even understand for the farmer or the homesteader how important these value added products are. And we say value added because a crate of chili peppers that are not perfect enough to sell, but are really like nothing is wrong with them. Maybe you have to cut off a little part that had a bug bite or whatever, can make amazing hot sauce that's shelf stable that you can sell all winter long if you have a little farm stand or whatever. And I I took essentially what was going to be compost, 2 days ago, and turned it into $1,600 of hot sauce. Or the same, I'm turning pumpkins into barbecue sauce, and I made, 15 cases of pumpkin barbecue sauce. I mean, what are the other options for pumpkins post Halloween? You've decorated with them, you've had them, they're sitting around. You can let them rot, you can save the seeds and plant more next year. You can feed them to pigs, but you can also make them into like 100 different things, soups and pies and breads and you can can pumpkin that you can then use later. And then I am a huge fan of hot sauce, and it's so easy to use anything in place of tomatoes in hot sauce, strawberry hot sauce, zucchini hot sauce, pumpkin hot sauce, and barbecue sauce as well. And so these are ways that we can create revenue for our families out of what would otherwise be nothing. And it's so important that these skills that we have them. But then, yeah, great. If I have these skills and I made $1,600 worth of barbecue sauce out of purple sweet potatoes and pumpkin and nobody comes and buys it, that's a problem. So it's also that we support each other and we use cash or silver or Bitcoin or like ways that we
Yeah.
can trade outside of the system, gold backs. There's lots of different ways. And even like I did some work for my neighbor and then he gave me some hay. Well, I was gonna have to buy hay. So like he gave me hay. My husband cleaned out some ditch for him with the thing. Well, if he gave me a check for $200 and I put it in and then it's income and na. But if
Yeah.
I dig the ditch, he gives me $200 of hay. So I get 2 round bales and some square bales. Great. Like that is a revenue exchange. I think that we have to do more of that. And we jokingly talk about like, okay, if a EMP hits, like what neighbors are going to be useful and
Yeah,
what
I mean,
neighbors are not going to be useful and are going to be a drag. Like, and like we need to get that person to take some skills, like go take some skill training and whatever. I don't know. It's like sounds crazy, but we talk about this a lot. We just had the wilderness first responder training here. Yes, because we wanted to make some money for the ranch, but also we then had multiple people from the ranch take the course. So I think that we didn't make money, but Francisco, Sarah, Ryland all took and Lucas all took the course. So now we have 4 people on the ranch that have these skills. We also did an herbal wild medicine, like Central Texas herbal medicine course on the ranch. Yes, we want to bring people to the ranch. We want to make money. But then again, multiple people on the ranch took that course because we do want to have these skills. And you probably get this as well, where you get people calling you and joking, like, well, I know where I'm going to show up if the ish hits
yes,
the fan. And I'm always like, well, if you don't have guns and bullets and skills and
yeah,
gold and seeds, don't show up. You can live in an apartment, but I need you to have those things. You need to have a closet full of
exactly.
those things if your intention is to show up here. I need seeds, I need gold or silver, I
Yeah.
need bullets, I need guns, and I need skills. So you better have those things if you plan on showing up at my front gate.
That's right. I mean, we have to like change the I so I absolutely hate when people are like the consumer producer, like you're the producer, I'm the consumer buying for you. Like we have to remove that mindset and realize that we all have a divine purpose in creation. Like everybody has a job and it's not just to make money and support these corporations. We have to remove that mindset. And like you said, like if you live in an apartment, there are so many things you can learn to do. Like so many, like outside of the system. You can learn about herbalism, you can go foraging in state parks. Like there's so many things to do to enhance your skill set and to provide value. I like the way so I don't know if you've read Unsettling of America by Wendell Berry. Uh, like when I read that, that changed my whole mindset, especially even about like capitalism. Like I believe in free market, but the way we like worship money is not it. But anyway, he said like you're either an exploiter, like and you're supporting the system, or you become a nourisher, like you start nourishing it. Even if you're still making money, but like your goal is to have your purpose and creation and figure out how to not just consume and give back. So I think that's where we have to, even when we're in the slave system, we have to start thinking outside of that. Like if civilization fails, even if it doesn't, like I look at my kids and I think I have to figure out a way to give them sovereignty and freedom. And it can't be just like, okay, we'll go get a job and make money. Like you're gonna have to and
Yeah.
like you said, it's a long game. Like this is a long game that we have to commit to, no matter how hard it's gonna get.
It's interesting because I was in a discussion with a customer in the restaurant who was concerned because he thought that in my book and in talks that I was saying that it's not just by grace that we're saved, but it's by
Mhm.
works. And that's not very Christian, and that's Catholicism, and and I was like, I don't know, I just don't think that that could be possibly true, that it's just by grace. Like, I'm not saying it doesn't say it in the Bible. I'm not
Yeah.
saying I know better than the Bible. I'm saying as a person on this planet, I can't imagine that our job is to just say, "I choose Jesus Christ as my personal Lord and Savior. I'm born again." And then whatever we do is it's just by that. To me,
Yeah. Yeah.
I believe. And he was like, "Well, but for salvation." And I said, "I'm not living my every moment here on earth for salvation. I am a follower and I'm not worried about my salvation, but I do want to
Exactly.
be the best version that I can be for God on this realm, in this planet, in this place." And so I can't imagine that it's just by grace. And maybe I'm totally wrong and I'm probably bristling some people right now, but it's
Yeah.
on my mind because I do think that we have gotten so complacent. And
Mhm.
the idea that it is just by grace allows us to be complacent. And what you were saying is like, God has a purpose for all of us. And if we are not living that purpose out, then I don't think we're being the best cell in his greater body. we are a cell in his greater body. And so if we are not being that, and we are saying that I'm saved, like I choose Jesus Christ as my personal Lord and Savior, but I'm then just working for the slave system, watching not degrading information coming into my brain, and just like paying my bills, and not and just being a consumer, like you were saying, and an extractor and an
Mhm.
exploiter. I just can't believe, and I'm not saying people won't be go to heaven. I'm not that I'm
Yeah,
not It's
yeah,
not
yeah.
about salvation. I don't live my every day for my salvation. I have faith in my salvation, and I live my every day to be the best cell in the body that I can be.
Mhm.
And so I do think, and that's this conversation made me think of this, is that I do think it is our works that and it matters. And I'm not saying it matters. I'm not arguing the salvation part. I'm just saying it
Mhm.
matters for the whole. It matters. Like the ripple effect of you have no idea. The ripple effect of me, I have no idea. But I know that it is my job to be that best cell and have the rippling of God's whispers coming into
Mhm.
the world and passing over more people's eyes, more people's ears, and more people's plates and food and all of it, because he has a design that is perfect. And we are operating in a very bastardized
Mhm.
version, a perverted version of what the Lord asks of us. And even our food is a perverted version of
Mhm.
the bounty and the abundance that God has given us.
Yeah. And I like to think like, okay, so he created this beautiful creation. He gave us, I mean, the soil, this richness, and then we come here and you cannot tell me our purpose is to just go to McDonald's and watch Netflix and go to a job. Like that cannot be what our job is in this creation. Like it just can't be. Like I just it's very conflicting, and especially when I see Christians just being so passive and like, well, this is our life. We go to church on Sunday and we say a prayer, and then we go to work on Monday and get McDonald's and go to the sports. And I'm like, that's just not respecting creation. That's not worshiping the creator. Like, it's just not. And I know it's hard. They've made it hard on purpose. I think there are demonic entities in, controlling everything. Like I do. Like I'm that person, like there's demonic with AI, all these things. They're making it so hard for you to rise to your purpose. And these are the conversations I feel like we have to start having, and we have to not just talk about it, we've got to be the people doing the work so it like you said, so it ripples out to encourage other people to do it, or we're just gonna be enslaved.
And I mean, and I'm even looking at how to turn the ranch into a church. And I'm not huge on organized religion in large scale and what
Mhm,
it's turned into. And I don't think that it's what Christ has asked. Much of what the evangelical sphere is today, I don't think is, if Christ returns, he's going to be thinking it's awesome. Um, but uh, I hope and I pray that they have some time to get it together before he returns. But I do think that being in alignment with God, and even aligning our land and declaring our land that this is a church and that this is a food ministry, and that we are uplifting the perfection of God's abundance, and we are bringing the light to that. We are shining the light on God's perfection and reminding people, because I don't think people think McDonald's is demonic. I don't think that people think that. But
mhm,
if you look at, and McDonald's just donate, I shouldn't, maybe let's use Burger King, because they just donated a bunch of money to regenerative agriculture, and people are going to be like, "Rah, rah, rah." But I don't think that people are like, oh, Burger King is demonic.
mhm,
No, no, I don't think people see it that way. But if you were to like say there's an entity, and this entity is fully extractive, it's trying to extract the most profit possible, it's trying to get
mhm,
the least pay the people the least, and then it's trying to sell the most volume. It's always trying to maximize its profits, and then what it is feeding you is addictive, and so your body is going to come back like a drug addict, back again and again and again, and they're using science and Frankenstein genes to make it addictive. And then you are going to keep coming back, and they're extracting and cutting down the rainforest and destroying God's creation, and then feeding it to humans. And humans are, people will be like, well, what kind of devil worship is that? You're like, oh, that's Burger King. Right. It's like, oh, well, Burger King is not that bad. It is, and I'm
Exactly.
not I just wanna say this, I'm not judging anybody, this is not
Same.
a
Yep.
judgment. I just ordered birthday present. My son's birthday's in 5 days. I just ordered birthday presents on Amazon, and literally I tried to order the thing from the direct from the person through
Mhm.
Instagram, and then the link wasn't working, and then my credit card wasn't, and I was like, just went to Amazon. Like, I
Mhm.
did the wrong thing, right? And it's in my not wanting the day to come, and he really wanted this thing, and I didn't get it together. I just did that, and I joke all the time because my book is available through my publisher, and it's also available on Amazon. And I say, you can go to debunkbynature.com and buy it and pay for shipping, or you can go to Amazon because I know that we all like free shipping
Mhm.
more than we hate Amazon. And even that idea, this free shipping idea that Amazon has created, makes
Mhm.
it impossible for small producers. So people will come to me and say, I want to buy your meat, but the shipping. And I'll say, well, I who should pay for the shipping? And they're like, well, I don't know, but I shipping should be free. And it's like, well, why should shipping be free? There's fuel, there's trucks, there's packaging, there's dry ice. There's all these resources that need to be utilized in order to get me meat to your door. Or even if it's a tallow face balm and it's like, well, the tallow face balm is $36 and the shipping is $11,
Mhm.
30%. And I'm like, I got it. But what is it that it's like Amazon has created this lie, and there's so many lies in our society that we're operating on top of, and then those lies become the foundation for all these beliefs. But Amazon has created this lie that shipping doesn't cost money. And then all us producers out here are like, well, I don't understand what you want me to do. Do you want me to charge $50 for the face bomb and then not charge for shipping? I could do it. Do you want my steak? Do you want my ground beef to be $20 a pound and not charge for shipping? Like, I don't know the answer. But I don't have any surplus in my bank account right now. In fact, it may be overdrawn this morning. I don't know. I haven't checked. But I'm operating on razor thin margins, trying my best, sold our life insurance, sold vehicles, sold tractors, sold all types of stuff to survive. And my customers who are wanting to help the farmer are upset that shipping costs money. I'm not marking up the shipping. Like, a there's a Wix shop, and they check the different options, and they then give them the
Mhm.
option based on the cheapest option and like if you're in Texas, it's gonna be less because we can get it there next day on something different than if you're in Oklahoma, I mean, or further than Oklahoma, Idaho. So I don't know what people want, but this is like one of these lies that these corporate entities that I could be evil, or demonic, put into the world. And then it's like, how do we create these systems outside of the system if people think shipping is free, except for that it's
Mhm.
only. And then Amazon has all these special deals. Like the other day I said to the
Mhm.
post office, like, oh, I didn't get this package. It says it was here, but and they're like, oh yeah, we reached our limit with our contract with Amazon, and because they don't pay us by the package, and it's like we only deliver this many rural packages per or whatever. And I don't know. That's just what the guy told
Yeah.
me. I don't know the details of that behind it, but it sounds like Amazon has some kind of deals that we
Mhm.
don't have. And so, of course, and I know my friend AJ Richards starting from the farm. Everybody should check it out. It's awesome trying to get farmers to be able to sell direct to consumer. The price of shipping is one of the largest issues that AJ is having to get consumers to buy in. You look at um, who was it? Steve Jarvis has 100,000 followers on Instagram.
Yeah.
He said, can 1%, if 1,000 people, if 1,000 people bought one box of potatoes, they would have made a little bit of money. He
Mhm.
got like 400 people to buy boxes of potatoes, and everybody was like, $75 for a box of potatoes. That seems crazy. Could they grow a box of potatoes for $75? Can you
No.
grow a box of potatoes?
No, not especially now, maybe 5 years down the road when you have the infrastructure set up, but the soil that, if you're doing raised garden beds, the seeds you're getting for that, like, we can go on, like, the price to get into homesteading gardening is expensive, but
And what
that's
is
to the
your hour? Like, what are you paying yourself hourly to water the
exactly, the
plant?
labor, like, That's another thing. So, when we raised our hogs and we're looking at pricing and stuff, I'm like, we're not actually making our money back, even though the consumer is gonna be like, well, that's so expensive for a pork chop. I'm like, we're not actually making anything for ourselves. Like, this is just paying us back for the money we fronted up front for feed and buying and fencing and all those things. And people don't realize that. But the reality is food, nothing in creation is fast, easy, and cheap. It's not. God told us to work the soil. That, I guess, that's the curse of mankind. We don't have the utopia. We just don't. So we have to work. And I think the answer to like the shipping is I like being able to order stuff. Like I do. Like I like convenience. And like you said, I'm not going to be the person to sit here and say, I never order. Like I'm a purist. I'm not. Nobody is, and
Me
that's where
neither.
grace comes in. Like, we can't live a perfect life, but we have to try not to live a perfect life, but we have to try to live in order with creation. But I think the answer is we have to bring back rebuild the local communities. Because when you look at what's happening, it's because rural America is decimated. Like, so in our little town, we have a farmer's market. You can only go there on Saturdays, but it's closed now because of the cold weather. So now the only thing we have in our town to buy food is a little Chapel's grocery store, and they just sell junk. You know what I'm saying? Like it's all industrial food, all those things. We have a Dollar General, we have a gas station, a McDonald's, a Subway, and a liquor store, and that's all we have. So there's no like actual local food. Now we do have a lot more people having farm stands and things like that, but there's not enough people actively trying to feed their communities. And that's when it comes to our divine purpose. Like we all have to be involved. And not everybody can raise cattle, not everybody can do the hogs, but we all have to do something to be involved.
100%, and
You know?
I do think that people say, "Well, your silly regenerative agriculture can't feed the world." We need to feed our communities,
Yes.
not the supply chain. We need to feed our communities, and we have our farm stand here, and
Mhm.
our farm stand is not as abundant as I would like it to be, but we are short on labor, we have struggling financially, so how do we pay more people? Volunteers
Yeah.
are it's harder to manage volunteers because you have the different it's like not like, "You have to do this," right? It's like, "Thank
Yeah.
you for your help." So it's different. Um, but people come all the time, like, people with tears in their eyes, like, "Oh my god, thank you so much." Because essentially, I live in a food desert too. We have a Lowe's, which is the kind of rural grocery store. We have, like, $10 Generals in I one county, I don't know. We only have
Yeah.
50,000 people, but $10 General, so basically a Dollar General for every 5,000 people in the county. That might be an exaggeration, but
Yeah.
at least 4 that I can think of, in the county, so
They're
it's
everywhere.
crazy, um, and then we have a farmer's market in the warm season, but not in the cold season, but which is weird because here in Texas, like, our growing season is really spring and fall because of the hot and the summertime, but at any
Mm.
rate, we do have a little bit of that, but people are just so grateful when they find my farm store and they can buy locally produced meat and eggs and milk and a little bit of produce, and this time of year, we're low on produce, but there and all the hot sauces and all that. I mean, people just feel so grateful for that. And the main thing that people feel grateful for is the tortillas, like that we grow our own corn and we make these
Mhm.
tortillas and we sell thousands of tortillas. And I want to start doing the sourdough flour tortillas is my
Mhm.
next goal to put in the farm store, but I think people are just so grateful for that, and then I think it does inspire people to get involved. There's a guy who's like, "I'm gonna bring you a turkey. You guys don't have any turkeys. I got a boy and a girl. You can start a turkey family and
Mhm.
start having turkeys." I'm like, "Thank you, sir. Let me know before you bring it because I need to get a place ready for it." And but then other people don't understand. They're like, "I only eat fish and chicken, and you don't serve any fish and chicken in your restaurant." I was like, "Well, because we don't raise fish or chicken here on the
Yeah.
farm, but, I have a fantasy of doing tilapia as a fertilizer, like, situation, but
Mhm.
I haven't figured that out yet." So, um, and we may do well, I think we are doing meat birds in December, actually, we ordered them, but, we haven't done meat birds, and so we just have our egg-laying chickens, we have lamb, we have pork, we have goat, and we have beef, which is a lot on one farm, you
Yeah.
know what I mean? But people are like, "Well, I only eat chicken," and I'm like, "Okay, well, I I don't know what to tell you,
Oh,
you should start raising
yeah.
chickens."
I mean, I'm just saying, that's the answer, like, when I think of the industrial chicken, like, if everybody raised their year supply of meat chickens and you can do heritage breed, you can do, the Cornish cross, and there's so many things. And then we can take it a step further. At the Food is Medicine Summit, a lady after I spoke, she talked about that, like having local hatcheries is more important than, where you order and it comes in. Like if communities said, okay, I'm going to raise the chickens for these families to have their meat birds or whatever, like there are so many solutions, but just getting past I guess the creativity and realizing that we have to detach from this money slave system. And even I think it was funny in the beginning, you said like a black, um, dark web kind of food system. And I hate saying it like that, but like that's, I guess, how we're going to have to do it. And if more people are doing it, I mean, what are they going to do to us? Like what, like if we all rally together and say we're growing our food and sharing it with our neighbors, what are you going to do?
I mean, yeah, we have to do PMAs or
Yes.
churches or whatever to be not going to jail. I do know a woman
Yeah.
who was arrested for selling raw goat milk, and I think that's crazy in front of her
Yes.
children, like AR-15s. I don't know if you know the story, but I got raided by the government for not so in California, I was unaware. I made hot sauce for ever in my restaurant. So
Well,
we sold it at the front of the restaurant and we had it on all the tables and it was
mhm.
it was called Mollie's Hot and it had like a pinup version of me on the label and it was
Well,
super cute and it we sold it as well as a fake Parmesan cheese that I made out of coconut. These were on all the tables and we sold it for years. It
well,
was $15. You could buy the hot sauce, take a hot sauce home,
mhm.
and people would be upset when we didn't have it. It was very popular and it was didn't have sugar, it had maple syrup and habaneros and I don't know, but at some point someone called the government and figured out that I don't have a cannery license, which I didn't even know was a thing. I have a certified kitchen, I have a food
Mhm.
handler's permit, a food manager handler's permit, on and on. So they came in but not just to one restaurant. They came to all 4 restaurants simultaneously and raided us, so we couldn't call the other restaurants to tell them to hide the hot sauce. And so they
Oh,
embargoed all of my hot sauces with these big tape embargo, 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 and I'm pregnant. With what kid am I pregnant with? I guess Estrella? I I or Soul, I don't know. I was pregnant with one of my children that was born at my California farm, so either Estrella or Soul, and I'm super emotional, like, this lady is just a pencil pusher to the max that took
mhm.
my case after they raided us, like, as if it was a police raid and embargoed everything and packaged it all up and took inventory and of all the bottles and everything like that. So then they said you have to submit all your processes and then you have to send to UC, I don't remember what school, but one of the UC schools to the lab, each and then from each batch, each had like a number for the batch number. So from each batch, we had to send it and each flavor, and then we had to fill out these forms that was like, this is what the pH was when we canned it, this is the ingredients, this was the temperature in which we canned it, this is how long we did the water bath afterwards, et cetera, et cetera for every product. And there was some jams and other little things that we
Mhm.
made at the front of the restaurant as well. But it wasn't just what was on the shelf, it was the whole inventory in the back. So you have to imagine that I'm pregnant. It's COVID. I'm trying to survive this crazy thing. I have 350 employees. We're like bleeding money. I've grown the onions, the garlic, the habaneros, all of that on my farm. And then I've canned it all, packaged it all, sealed it, stickered it, and now I'm assuming that when I applied for the cannery license. I got up at 5 in the morning and took a class on the East Coast. I was on the West Coast to get my cannery certification. I then submitted all of them for testing for each batch. Of course, no botulism, no bacteria, no blah, blah, blah. Safe for consumption is what the paperwork that we got back. And I said, okay, so when can we start selling them? And they were like, no, you can't. You have to dispose of them. And I said, well, what do you mean you have to dispose of them? Uh, they're safe. You agreed that my process was the correct process. I'm now certified. Now this location is a cannery facility and we've paid thousands of dollars for all these things and the courses and the blah, 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 and all the tests for each batch. Let me sell my product. No. Okay, well, I'm just going to take it home and eat it at the farm for myself. And they said, no. It's too dangerous, and then shamed me like, "You're gonna eat this product that you canned yourself and grew yourself while you're pregnant? While you're pregnant, you're going to do this? It's not safe." And so, not only did they not let me keep any of that hot sauce, I had to dispose of all of the hot sauce, and I had to pay them to watch me dispose of it, and
That
I
is
lost my shit.
insanity.
I, screamed on the lady. I'm sorry for swearing. But at one point, I was crying and yelling at her. I was like, "You are a robot. You are a robot. You are an NPC. You are not a real person. I am a pregnant mother who grew all this food, who canned it, who's trying to survive. Do you even know what it's like to try to make payroll on Friday?" I just lost it. No, because you're just a government shill. You don't have to take any risk and you don't have to. And I was lost my mind on this poor woman, probably whatever. I don't know. But and she's was a foreigner from I don't know, I'd say India probably. And I was like, In your country, is this a reasonable thing? Is this a reasonable thing in your country? If a farmer grows this thing, I'm losing my mind on her. And looking back, I probably could have been nicer to her, but I was very pregnant and I
Mhm,
felt like it was some kind of shaming ritual. I
mhm.
just and she was like, "Well, you don't have to dump out bottle by bottle. You can put them all in the trash compactor and just get them crushed. I just have to see that they're crushed." But uh, each of those bottles costs a dollar. We can't reuse the caps, but the glass bottles can all be reused and sanitized.
Mhm.
And so I didn't want to throw them away because it was thousands of dollars of bottles.
Yeah,
And
and
so
it's insanity, just
bottle
insanity.
by bottle, I had to dump them in, and I actually left and let my
Mhm,
employees finish because I started crying, and I don't like crying in front of people,
mhm,
at work, and so I left, but I was so angry and so frustrated and felt, "How could it be that she has the power to do this? That you could grow your food, you could can your food, you could this and this and this, and okay, you don't want me to sell it, commerce, but you're
mhm.
saying I can't have it for myself?" And she's like, "Well, how do I know that you don't sell it? What now you have the license, you don't just change the stickers and sell." I said, I don't know, I don't you don't know, but it's safe, you had it tested, it's safe."
Yeah,
So,
I mean,
that's the world we live in, and I don't think people realize that that's the world we live in. I don't think people understand. Meanwhile, all industrial food has canned food has
mhm,
plastic, has sanitizer, has all this stuff in the food, and I'm not even saying those of us who can commercially, I use sanitizer when I'm canning stuff. It's not the ideal thing, but it's harder I mean, it's easier than putting bottles in the oven and da da da,
mhm.
other things when you're doing at mass thing. I'm not saying that I will never use sanitizer. Of course, I use sanitizer in the restaurant. It's the law. I'm just for clarity out there, the government, I use sanitizer in the restaurant. But I just think that the truth is the person at home canning their own jam, using vinegar, using the
Mhm.
oven, using boiling water is going to be a healthier product than any other product.
Yeah, and I mean, it's just like and a lot of people aren't aware of all the regulations and licensing that you have to get for real food, and it's all there to favor the big corporations so they can continue the monopoly on our food. Like, even so when you do meat, when we did processed our hogs, our feed supplier went out of business because we only did, like, non-GMO, organic, and so that's more expensive, they went out of business, and then we were paying double on our feed costs, and that was overnight, we didn't account for that, so, like, we were just blowing through money, and as you know, feeding hogs, that's a lot of money, even if they're foraging, like, they eat, and if you're trying to get them to a certain weight, blah, blah, blah. Anyway, and
So we
so
had the
when
same thing happen to us. We lost
yeah,
our food source, and all of a sudden, my husband's about to shoot baby hogs because we can't afford to feed them.
but
It
when you
didn't
grow
happen. We found another source, but I mean, it was
yeah,
that's
like
what we were up
and
against.
people don't think about that, don't know that, and then with you are at the mercy of the, butchering facility. So, we had local facilities around us that were a lot cheaper, but they weren't USDA certified, and if I'm wanting to sell that meat, I have to take it to that USDA facility, and the little inspection guy or girl has to come in there and just check the meat, And there's no difference, and I have to pay almost double for that cut of meat, even though it's, again, no different, didn't raise the animal different, didn't take it to another facility. I just have to pay double, and then they give me back the pork chops, and one says not for sale, and the other I can sell, which is just ridiculous. Like, when you think about all of that, like,
Or even imagine this, I sent a cow to the USDA facility, but it's also a custom slaughter place, they do both, and the USDA guy was sick, so all my meat came back not for sale because this guy got sick, like, or
yeah,
and I'm like, I don't understand, like, someone explain it to me like I'm 2 years old.
yeah, like, it just when you look at the logic, like what they did to your restaurant, taking that hot sauce, like, to just okay, so that's food. I mean, it's hot sauce, but, like, that's food that was made and done, and instead of just being reasonable, like, "Yeah, you can keep it at your house, just don't sell it, whatever, don't they want you to destroy it? Like, that just the insanity of it all makes no sense, and it's built on this just imaginary and I know they have power, like, they made you lose all your hot sauce, but, like, just, again, the insanity, and that's what I really hope people start realizing within the system is that it's not built on actual logic and natural order of creation, like, it's just built on this ideal of control and to exploit as much as possible from human and creation.
Yes, and it's actually our job to honor God's abundance in a way and share it with our neighbors and share
Mhm.
it with the community. And it used to be the part that's hard about living in community, and I'm doing it, is it used to be that the shared childcare, the abundance of food, the help with the fire, with the this, with the that was enough. But
Mhm.
now everybody has this money slave system that they are beholden to, and what we can pay based on what's coming in, it feels unfair, it feels exploitatory, and then people that are working on the farm feel like it's unfair, and it's like, yeah, I haven't taken a single paycheck. I've only paid to be here since I got here. So I understand, but this is not some exploitatory system. But it used to be that food, water, shelter, heat, these things were valuable. But what happens in community here is the food, the water, the shelter, the internet, the diesel, the tractors, the greenhouses, all of that disappears.
Uh-huh.
And then it's just the revenue part, and the problem is the world that I'm building doesn't fit into I'm not scaling some Nvidia stock of I don't know, some kind of chip that you need for AI. It's not what I'm doing. I'm growing
Uh-huh.
carrot. So, like, literally, like, I'm growing sweet potatoes. Like, that's what I'm doing. So, I don't have the ability. I understand that you wanna make $100,000 a year, and that's what would make you happy and not feel exploited. Like, I got it. Like, I don't know what you want me to do. And I do see that there's inequities in every farmer, 85% of farmers are working an off-farm job. I talk about this a lot. This means that we are subsidizing your food. We are subsidizing your food. I work an off-farm job. Your husband works an off-farm job. Like, all
Mhm.
these people are working off-farm job. You work off-farm job, social media and all the
Yep.
things that you're
Mhm.
doing. It does seem I write an article and I get paid 250 to $500. Do you know how much sweet potatoes I gotta grow to get $500?
Yeah, I mean,
Do
yeah,
you know how long do you know how much time compared to writing an article it takes for me to grow $500 of sweet
Mhm.
potatoes? It's crazy what we value. Now, I think my thoughts are valuable. I think my ideas are valuable. I think I should be paid for them. Anybody out there that's like, "Oh, maybe Molly wants to be paid less for her articles." That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is it doesn't make sense. Like, food, a purple sweet potato that's, like, nutrient dense and doesn't spike your blood sugar and has these blue foods help with depression and blah,
Mhm.
blah, 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 blah. Okay, amazing. This is worth less than $1 a pound. My ideas on feminism, $500. You know what I'm saying? It's
Mhm.
like,
Mhm.
it's an interesting world and what we value, what we see as the important things. And guess what? Food is not important. We have a culture, we have a society that has said food is not important. It's not important for women to feed their families. It's not important to know how to grow food. It's not important. Like, the other day, my husband walks back to the restaurant and he's holding 3 turkeys. And I was like, For real? You just went hunting right now?" He's like, "A million things to do." He's like, Well, I saw an opportunity and Thanksgiving is coming, right? And so my husband harvested our Thanksgiving turkeys, and I was thinking like, "Oh, I wonder if that's why because turkeys are big and prolific at this time of the year and their
Mhm.
babies are already big enough to survive. I wonder if that's, like, in the whole, why do we eat turkey this time of year? Like, that's probably part of it. I don't know. I only have been indoctrinated that, like, Thanksgiving is bad, blah, 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 blah. But, I was realizing like, oh, that makes sense. Like there's prolific turkeys, so we are gonna hunt turkeys this time of year. You know what I mean? Like
Mhm.
there's
Mhm.
turkeys everywhere. And so that makes sense. And so, but if you were to go and then we had to clean those turkeys and pick out their feathers and blah, 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 blah. And took a half a day, not a half a day, but took some time out
Yeah.
of the day. My husband and his brother doing that and boil water, blah, 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 blah. And I'm thinking when people go and get their butterball turkey, are they gonna have the same reverence for that as we're gonna have for the turkeys that my husband harvested from our own land that lived totally free, ate totally wild grubs and bugs and all of that? I don't
Yeah.
know, I doubt it. And
No.
is is there a different is the coherency of that food harvested from our land that we live on, that lived off of this land, nourishing our bodies different than that butterball turkey? I'm gonna go with yes, it is.
Yeah.
And we've lost that.
We have, and that yeah, I mean, that's what I hope, like, revive the table. It helps awaken that in everybody to realize we have to revive what's been lost, because, like, in the turkey instance, I feel like most people, it's like, "Okay, what grocery store has turkeys for 49 cents?" Or whatever, and I get, again, money, like, you gotta pay the bills, you wanna do a Thanksgiving dinner with your family, but, like, when you get down to the nitty-gritty, food is not fast, easy, or cheap. We want it to
Never.
be,
And
'cause
that turkey didn't cost 49 cents to raise. That It's a
no.
loss leader for the grocery store, and it was subsidized corn, it
Yeah,
was
yeah.
subsidized soy. I mean, the estimate right now is that we pay about 30% of the actual cost of our food in the grocery store, and the rest is subsidized between
Mhm,
government subsidies and the farmers' free labor, the family of the farmers' free labor. And I go back to the Steve Jarvis example
mhm,
that he had to sell 1,000 sweet potatoes to like make a little money, but that didn't even include his sons and his wife and his labor
mhm,
planting, harvesting, da 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 da. Like we don't realize, and he's a hunter, like he does hunting, what is it called? Taking people on hunting expeditions and
mhm.
sells hunting dogs. So that's his off-farm job. Like everybody has an off-farm job, and 85%, not everybody. But to clarify
It's
for
a
those
big
fact
big
checkers
percentage,
out
though.
there, that is doesn't work. It doesn't work. And so we have a society that like values equity, 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 and you need to have 2 breaks. You have to have a break before your dinner meal break and after your meal break, and da 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 da. And it's not fair. And if you can't be on your feet for this many hours, and da, da, but who's concerned about the farmer? Who's concerned
Mhm.
about the farmer working 40 to 60 hours on one job and then coming home and working 40 to 60 hours on the farm? Who
Not
Me and
enough
my
people
husband's
are.
day starts at 5:30 AM and ends way after dark. Like,
Mhm.
who's concerned if I got a break? Nobody. But they will be concerned that my beef is $13 a pound.
So, that was a really funny point when you're talking about the subsidies. Everybody's talking about, like, socialism and communism right now because the new New York mayor, whatever. I don't think he's really for all that, but actually, when you look at our food system is actually like a socialist structure because our tax dollars go in to pay to subsidize these foods, and so nobody's actually getting the full value, like the farmer. He's not getting his full cut of the food. Instead, it's like going through all these chains, and of course, I'm sure some economists would be like, "That's not socialism." But what I'm getting at is we don't have a free capitalist market. We don't. Like, as it is right now, we don't. So
No,
any
not at all.
you know, it's not. Like, we might have, like, shareholder capitalism or, like, the World Economic Forum, but, like, we don't have true capitalism. So I don't
No,
understand
and true
what
capitalism is the closest thing to nature. I write about this a lot. True capitalism is the closest thing to nature
Mhm.
that we
Yes.
have. It
Yes.
is.
Because you have to give, like, again, it goes back to creation, like, what you give to creation, you get back, but it has to be
Right.
a healthy balance. So if in your community, if you're providing, you have the best cattle, people are gonna go there and buy from you. If you have the best bread, people are gonna go to buy there and buy for you, but it has to be fair. It can't be that just, like, 6 companies, I don't know exactly the fact on that, but, like, Nestle and all these other companies, own it all. It can't be like that. That's not free market.
No, or we mandate I mean, look, we mandated the vaccines. I was like, "Well, if I could mandate that everybody has to eat a burrito from my restaurant or they can't go on a cruise, I'm
Exactly.
feeling like my restaurant is gonna be blowing
That
up,
was
but
right.
I'm over
Yeah.
here just trying to make delicious organic food and begging people to come out and try it, but you're mandating some experimental gene therapy." And then we got, Infamil and all the Nestle's
Mhm.
lobbying for women to go back to work, lobbying for us to have shorter maternity leave in this country so that their product becomes a necessity when every single one of us was born with 2 milk makers right on our chest. Like,
Yeah.
why I need that powder? Why I don't need that powder. I do
No.
not. But the thing is that we've gotten to this place where these major corporations can completely manipulate the system. And I was writing about this morning. I'll go all the way back to World War II. Women went into the workforce because it was necessary because the men were
Mhm.
away at war. And after the war, what people realized is, oh my goodness, we can get women to work. And
Mhm.
if we convince them that cooking for their families is beneath them, we can sell all this not good, shelf-stable food, rations that we've been sending to our military during the war, and all of a sudden, we are a world living on military rations, shaming women out of their role, and so what if really, like, second wave feminism, World War II, that combination is the foundation root cause of our metabolic health? Because if the woman was in the house saying, I'm only gonna feed the healthiest food to my family, then and I'm totally was indoctrinated to the feminist thing, like, I'm not this is no judgment, I'm was there, but looking at it, telling us that there's anything more important than raising our children, feeding our family, nourishing our family, and passing down traditions is crazy, because think back, what do you remember about your mother? What do you remember about your grandmother? It's not like the hours they were at work, for sure. That's not what you're like, "Oh my god, my mom was such a good worker." My mom was a good worker, but, I mean, it's the things that we did together. I mean,
Together,
my
yeah.
mom was vegan, so, I mean, the food that she was making is not necessarily something I'm passing down to my children, but I remember my mother making tofu from scratch and making tempeh, and we had a tempeh closet and fermenting and watching the mold grow over the soybeans, and I do remember those things, the kneading of the bread and the making of the food. Those are what I remember, about my mother. You know what I mean? It's those things. It's not like, "Oh my goodness, she was such a good fashion designer. I just wish that I could that's just not what
Yeah.
I remember about my mother. And so and if you my grandmother, she was a professor. I don't even know what that her professor
Mhm.
persona was, but what I remember is picking peas in the garden and making jam. Like, why I could can all of those hot sauces and not have any bacteria is because my grandmother taught me how to can food without going to the course that I had to take so that I was a cannery certified whatever I am now. I have a license of some kind. But my grandmother taught me, and maybe she didn't tell me the exact pHs and blah, 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 but my grandmother taught me salt, vinegar, sugar, like how to make it stable and make it no, maybe I didn't know what the pH level had to be for water canning versus heat canning, but I knew vegetables, tomatoes, those need to be pressure canned. These ones that sugars, vinegars, those can just be water baths. I she taught me those things, and I was capable of producing healthy quality food, and so we've stopped teaching our children the most basic things, and, the other night, I went to the university to do a book reading and
Mhm.
signing, and I went downstairs. I was like, "Is there somewhere I can get something to drink?" 'Cause I'd forgot to bring water, and I'm just gonna be talking for 75 minutes, so I went and I walk through the cafeteria, and there's, like, a Starbucks kiosk at the back, and I just say, "Can I get a green tea unsweetened,
Mhm.
iced green tea unsweetened?" And she goes, "This'll be interesting. I've never made tea before." And I was like, "Okay, well, I'll help talk you through it. You guys don't have iced tea already made?" She was like, "No, no, no, we don't. Nobody orders iced tea." I said, "Okay, so just wear your tea bags." And I'm like she's like, asks the other girl, "Where are the tea bags?" And then she points them to her. I said, "Okay, take 2 tea bags because you need to it's gonna be warm when
Mhm.
you pour it on the ice and you make it strong, and only put a little bit of hot water and let it steep." And she says, "Where do I get the hot water?" And I'm like, "I don't know, where do you get the hot water?" So
Oh.
her other coworker comes over and they keep asking, like, "You're sure you don't want any syrup? And we have vanilla, we have this." I'm like, "I'm positive I don't want any syrup, just want an iced green tea." And I said, "I don't drink sugar because it causes diabetes when we're just drinking sugar with no other nutrients attached to it, and you're
Mhm.
just straight into the bloodstream." And one of the girls goes, "I've heard that. Almost everybody in my family has diabetes, and we've been talking about not drinking sugar." I said, "Okay, good." And she goes, "I went to culinary school. I know my way around a tea bag. I'm gonna help her." And so I was very gracious with these people. I got my 2 iced teas for me and my friend, and literally they were all melted and very light colored and no ice in them, kind of lukewarm. And I just said when I was leaving, "Hey guys, how long have you guys worked here?"
Mhm.
And the one girl that had or knew her way around a tea bag had been 2 years, and the other one was 1 year. And I thought, "Crazy, crazy to work in food service for a year and not know how to make a cup of tea, but crazy to get to be 21 years old and not know how to make a cup of tea."
It's
But
it's not the norm. Like, for me, I was not raised like, the skills that I have learned, I wasn't raised any, and it's not a shade to my mother, like, she was a single mom most of my life, she worked in factories, cleaning houses, like, she was just trying to survive, so she had, like, no time to develop these skills, and when I became a wife and started staying home and I've had all this time, I was like, I don't know nothing. I can tell you, like, 'cause I worked in insurance billing previously, like, before I had my kids, and I was like, I can tell you what a deductible is. I can tell you how to file an insurance claim, but I don't even know like how like I didn't know how to make tea. I didn't even know how to make sweet tea. Like Southern sweet tea is like a big thing in Tennessee. But like I didn't even know how to do that. And like my husband was like, "Can you make us some sweet tea?" And I was like, I don't know how to do that." And I was like, "Wow, like I don't know nothing." Like and when it comes to the home, like I could do laundry, but like to actually do stuff that made me capable, I had no idea.
I think we have an epidemic of people
Mhm,
across the entire country that don't
mhm,
know how to do anything, that
mhm.
think that food comes from the grocery store. I've seen Twitter, and I don't know if they're true, but I've seen these Twitter posts going around where people are like, "What is the big deal about farmers? You can get everything you need at Kroger." And and I'm just like,
And
I
there's
feel
probably people that really do have that mindset, like, they don't like, my kids, like, they're very involved, like, this is a funny story, but some people are gonna be like, "That's so scary," but so our, Great Pyrenees just recently had puppies, and my kids are so accustomed that a lot of times when something gives birth on our homestead, like, we're very clear, like, when they reach a certain age, we're gonna eat that, or another family's gonna eat that. Well, you probably know where this is going. My daughter was like, "We're not gonna eat these, right?" And I was like, "No, no, we're not gonna eat these puppy like, no, we don't do that. We're not doing that." But, yeah, like, that my kids are very aware of, like, where food comes from, like, it's not from the grocery store, there's death involved, there's work, and so, yeah, just a funny story on that,
No,
but
that's so funny, but yeah, we've definitely had because when my son started realizing, like, how what different like, a cow was beef and whatever, my son was like and we don't eat hot dogs, so he only has seen them
Mhm.
on TV or whatever, but he goes, "Is the reason we don't eat hot dogs because we don't eat dogs?" I was like, "No, the hot dogs are not made out of dogs, but we don't eat dogs." But, yeah, my kids my
Mhm.
two-year-old this morning, I had or last night, I had, like, 100 and something text messages when I
Mhm.
finished canning the stuff that I was canning, and I guess that I was on the homepage of Fox News yesterday, and there was like a what is it called? Lifestyle piece about me, and I guess that somehow I got onto all the home screens of government computers. Somehow I was, like, in the and so people were saying, like, "My so and so works at the government, and this look, you're on the home screen, you're on the home screen." And, so the picture is me, like, giving a kiss to this big bull that we used to have, his
Mhm.
name Bubba, and my two-year-old goes, "Oh, that's Bubba," because I was looking at the article on my phone, and I said, "Yeah, that's Bubba," and she was like, I ate Bubba." And I was like, "Yeah," and she's like, "Bubba's all gone," and I said, "Yeah, Bubba's all gone." Mostly people at Food is Medicine ate him too, it wasn't just you. She's like, "I ate all my meaties." Like, that's what she calls me. She's like, "I always eat all my meaties." I said, "Okay." And she was like and then she looked at her tummy and she's like, "Is Bubba in here?" I said, "No, he came out in the poop." And she said, Oh, okay. But,
Good
like, my
question,
kids are
yeah.
very related to, like,
Yeah.
what is going on, and, yeah, my son has been, like, picked up a piece of meat, "But what kind of meat is this?" And I'm like, "Pork?" He's like, "Is it the pig daddy killed the other day or a different pig?" "A different pig."
Yeah.
And then he's like, "Okay, it's delicious." And I'm like, "Okay, great. I'm glad that you like it." And he's like, "I wish pig didn't have weird little pieces that nobody wants to eat." And I'm like, "Yeah, I don't know what those are, like tendons and fat and stuff." And he's like, "Yeah, those throw me off." And I'm like, "Okay." But my kids are very like just matter of fact about that
Yeah.
we're eating animals that and when an animal dies unexpectedly, there's a death during birth, or you have to put an animal down because it's in pain. My kids have a sadness response for
Mhm.
sure, and when they're prepared and they understand that it always is gonna be that this is I mean, we used to joke I mean, we not used to joke, we used to not ma name our male cows, but then now we have beef cows, and so because we used to only have dairy cows, and
Mhm.
then now we harvest the girls and the boys. My kids are like, "Well, I don't see why we can't name the boys now." I'm like, "Okay, we can name the boys." And
Yeah.
so my kids they were like, "We can understand that it has a name and we're gonna eat it one day." And so,
Mhm.
my kids are very related to where food comes from.
It's good to know. It's good. I mean,
And
yeah.
I there's so many kids that if you asked them,
Mhm.
like, "What's in a tortilla?" They'd be like,
I don't
I
know.
don't know."
Yeah, they don't know, but they nobody is teaching them. Like they're either trying to survive in this system or they just don't care. One of the two. Like I found, like that's usually like the camps people follow, and like they want to learn, they want to do these things, but they're just trying to survive. Or some, like I said, some people just don't care. So I hope we can get more people to care and help more people to get out of the slave system. I don't know. I don't have all the answers. None of us
Me
do, but I
neither,
hope these
but
conversations can help spark that and bring that change. And I have one question, and this is what I'm going to hopefully ask every guest. What is one thing you would tell somebody to actually revive everything? Like, what's one area they should focus on today?
eating a small farm diet. It's
I
not
like
about veganism,
Yeah.
um, it's not about paleo or what all the different
Hmm.
like, what percentage can you commit of your monthly money that you spend on food to within a 100-mile radius of you or whatever that it might
Hmm.
be? Sometimes in the wintertime, it might be a farther radius, but just really committing to supporting the people that are growing your food in the old ways, because those old ways are disappearing and we're in an agrarian collapse. And if we the people don't stand up, wake up and say, I actually want this kind of food to exist, it will disappear. And so that's what I would say. And then I just wanna say in closing, I just wanna thank you for being a sister in Christ, for being a sister in food, a sister in awakening, a sister in non-divisive, we all have gone through the us and them,
Hmm.
time, and I just wanna thank you for your voice in the world, reminding us that if someone is trying to get you to separate from somebody else, that they are probably not, you know, having the purest of intentions.
Exactly.
And so this is beyond a left and a right thing. This is beyond two colors of a jersey. I always say that the red team and the blue team and everybody's like painting their faces and being out there cheering, and instead of realizing that that's all a distraction
Hmm.
and that we can all come together around creation and the perfection of that. And that's I just want to say thank you for being a sister in that with me, and I'm grateful for our friendship.
Thank you. I am too. I can't wait to come back to your ranch. And for everybody listening, Molly's Ranch, it's a great place to stay at. Like I went to the Food as Medicine Summit, spoke there, but her food was incredible. And just the whole place, like it healed me. Like my husband and I, we needed that break. We needed that reset. So if you're going to Texas, make sure you go to Bandera, Texas to Sovereignty Ranch because you will be blown away. And the food is just delicious. We miss it. My husband and I still talk about it. He still talks about the pork tamales, and we even brought some home. We bought some from your, store, and yeah, and I love your hot sauce too. I eat it every morning. I think I got the habanero jalapeno. Um,
Excellent. The
yeah,
fermented one?
yeah, yes, the fermented one. Eat it every morning with my eggs and sausage, so love it.
Well, thank you so much. And as a reminder, I have a book out. It's been
Yep,
out for about a month and a half now. So everybody go to debunkedbynature.com or go to Amazon because we all like free shipping more than we hate Amazon.
yeah.
Um, So, yeah, thank you so much for having me on. And one last thing as we're moving, I don't know when this is going to come out, but we're moving into the holiday season and it's easy to go to Walmart, to go to Target, to go to these big box stores and really pump out presents in an afternoon, get all your shopping done and get socks for this one and that one. But I just want to invite you to support local farms and local producers that are making thoughtful gifts from homemade hot chocolate to hot sauces to vinegars to all these things that are probably right there in your community that you don't know about. And if you could just do a little research and really support the local farmers that are trying so hard to survive this season. And you're welcome to go to my website and buy hot sauces and stuff like that as well. But please, yeah, support farmers that are doing the right thing. This holiday season, massive amounts of money is spent into the money slave system, and let's have it stay in our communities because that is what matters.
Amen. Yeah. Awesome. And I will put all the links in the show notes to Molly's Ranch, to her store, her book, all of those so you can access those and support her and her family.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm so honored to be your first guest. And I want to come back when you have a million followers because it's going to blow up.
I think so. Like when I was planning the podcast, I was like, Molly has to be the first guest. She gets it. Like she gets the message. She's the one person that I know that truly we have, I feel like, the same vision on a lot of things. And yeah, I just want to see it work. I don't have the answers, but we can talk about it and do the work. Yeah. Thanks.
It's one step at a time. And we don't
Exactly.
often, God is not showing us the end of the road. He's just asking us to take the next step. And so we have to listen
Yes.
and take the next step.